Gang, I love Moneyball. I love it as the book, I love it as the movie, I even love it as the same 10 memes the fan base can't stop reposting. If you've never gotten around to it, Moneyball is a book by Michael Lewis from before he went kinda nuts. On the surface, it's about how Billy Beane, a former youth baseball phenom turned Oakland A's GM, began to use advanced statistics in his analysis of player signings. But it's so much more than that. It's a book about how and why culture changes. The original subtitle was The Art of Winning an Unfair Game. It's a subtle jab at the business of baseball, how the lack of a salary cap forces teams like Beans Athletics to find angles to compete with the Yankees and Dodgers of the world who can outbid minnows like the A's and Marlins. In 2011, Moneyball was adapted into a feature film starring Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, and is the version most people are familiar with. The book and movie are both great. I'd say they're about equal, which feels crazy considering how much of the book just couldn't be adapted. It's a bunch of essays about guys doing math. The fact they got an actual movie out of that is nothing short of incredible. Still, I think there's something we lose when conversation stops at the movie. Because Moneyball is never just about the memes or the numbers. Anytime someone invokes the word now, it's about how this or that thing is implementing data. 538 was the Moneyball of elections. Comstat is the Moneyball of law enforcement. In the last 20 years, the data revolution has had just as much, and maybe more of an effect, as the social revolution brought by the internet. Everyone is using data everywhere and all the time. That's fine, and in a lot of ways it's helped us out, but it ignores the themes at the heart of Lewis's book. So what was Moneyball really about? For over a century we played baseball. Every summer, through war, plague, depression, crisis, we played baseball and looked at it the same way our grandfathers did. That's true of the folks in the stands, but also the guys in the clubhouse scouting ball players. That's the point of the looking for Fabio scene in the movie. You got a table full of guys who had lived the same life. No wonder they are scouting for the same guys. Moneyball was never just about what change happened, but why it hit and why it hit when it did. So that's the question of the day. What do we get wrong about Moneyball? First off, advanced stats aren't the problem. If teams can find an advantage that doesn't break any rules, they should embrace that change. A lot of critics get mad at the Moneyball revolution and say that it's reduced the aesthetic quality and variety of the game. In the NBA, we have fewer Jamal Crawford-type ISO players. In football, we have fewer Ronaldinho-style artists. While fun to watch, their flair doesn't contribute to winning and is therefore a waste of funds that could be spent on winning players. Thinking differently, holding your ground while the room full of older scouts talk about looking for Fabio is just as important as calculating WAR or telling your guys to take more walks. That's the attitude that made Moneyball a success. Advanced stats and the strategies they inspire are just the form they take. Because I think we've lost something. Every team in pro sports has an analytics department. Baseball teams discovered how to get on base. Basketball teams learned how to shoot threes. Football teams learned to go for it on fourth down. Other football teams learned how to get better from set pieces. Hockey players presumably learned something. You get my point. We've replaced the table of guys looking for Fabio with a table full of Jonah Hills. Both worked on the day, but both have their shortcomings. When everyone's saying the same thing, there's nothing new to be said. The problem is not with any strategy. The problem is the table. When analytics went mainstream, they became less effective. Not because the math changed, but because the approach wasn't new anymore, and the overlooked players were a little less overlooked. One of Bean's strategies in the MLB draft was to let other teams pick up high schoolers, whereas the A's would stick with players with multiple years of college ball. This gave them more years of data to analyze. Bean's strategy went mainstream. Nowadays, everyone wants the guys that hit for extra bases and pick up walks. Those players aren't diamonds in the rough anymore. So if that's the case, what are the other flaws of the analytics movement? In the US, there will always be a ceiling on how effective advanced stats can be. This isn't because of the stats themselves, but with how we choose to determine success. We use a playoff tournament to crown a champion after a lengthy regular season that we made pointless. It's a fact of life that Bean laments in the book, saying his style didn't work and that his job is just to get the team to the postseason and give them a fighting chance. In our leagues, not all games are of equal value, unlike the traditional league table found in football leagues overseas. Advanced stats rely on reams of data to remove randomness and outliers. In the aggregate, it makes sense not to steal bases, but we don't play baseball in the aggregate, we play it in the park. And in these shorter time frames in the playoffs, randomness and outlier outcomes play a larger role. In a 162-game season, one player risking an out by stealing a base is an unnecessary risk. In a Game 7, it can be the difference between winning and losing. And that's why, particularly in this country, Strategy can't end with analytics. Luckily, progress has continued. With advancements in nutrition, medicine, equipment, sports science, sleep science, our athletes recover faster and now play longer careers. One of the goals of Moneyball was to root out assumptions rooted in conventional wisdom, basically doing something because we've always done that. In spite of this admirable principle, Bean created some of his own, one of which was that older players shouldn't receive lengthy contract offers because their production and health are expected to sink like a stone. That might be true of 2003, but imagine if the Lakers hadn't signed LeBron James in 2018 because of his age, or the Buccaneers hadn't pursued Tom Brady in 2020. They would have missed out because they fell for conventional wisdom and failed to account for new knowledge and new developments. So that's that. I still like analytics, but I like the mindset that led to them more. The best thing we can do is elevate new voices and new approaches. There's more nepotism and favor trading in sports than ever. It's harder and harder to make it in this business, on the field, front office, media, everywhere. Look, we can't all pin it on Bronny. We need change.